sales is the most lucrative skill in the world, period. The problem is most sales advice out there today is outdated, cheesy, and can even keep you from getting the deals that can make all the difference in your career. This is the No BS Sales School, a podcast for entrepreneurs and salespeople who want to master the skill of selling without all the BS. Listen, if you're like me, you hate doing admin crap. Number one, because you're not good at it. And number two, because you know it's taking you away from the stuff that actually makes you money. So why are you doing it? Do what I did. Go to worksby.com right now and let them pair you with a real executive assistant. Once I started working with Cheryl at Worksby, my income went up 40% in 1 month, and my working hours went from 70 down to 40. It's a game changer. Go to worksby.com right now, book a call, and tell them Walker sent you. If you do, you'll get 2 extra hours of service for free as a bonus. So if you're ready to finally stop doing the stuff you hate and focus on the stuff that makes you money, go to worksby.com right now. That's WORXBEE.com. Tell them Walker sent you, and you'll get those 2 free hours. Welcome to the No BS Sales Podcast. I'm your host, Walker McKay. Today, I've got a really cool guest. I know that's no surprise, but my guest is Kasey Jones. Kasey's a thought leadership and growth coach to entrepreneurs. She helps founders and their teams build their authority as industry experts and organically grow their business. The reason I invited Kasey to be on the show is she works a lot with people that struggle to build an online brand, an online personal brand. And she helps folks kind of get over that struggle and build a personal brand that builds their business. So Kasey, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me, Walker. I'm excited.
Did I screw that up or did I get it almost right?
No, I think
anything you want to add or change? You're good?
No, I think that's good.
One thing the No BS sales team needs to know about Kasey is she's very low energy and she's really kind of boring. Just kidding. When we did our pre-interview meeting, I think we talked for an hour and a half and we finally had to hang up.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was like a Friday afternoon and we both were like, you know what, we could just start drinking and continue this conversation. But it was like, I was telling people, I think it was within 3 minutes or something of our conversation, you and I were both swapping stories about like drug use from the college days. And we were like, okay, here we are. Like, yeah, sure. You know,
what you mean was the people that we knew in college that
exactly.
did drugs, right?
No, not us. I mean,
no, just, right.
You know, someone told us a story once.
Who were hanging out with the wrong crowd. So what the hell is, how the hell did you get to be somebody who helps people with their personal brand and thought leadership and all that kind of stuff? Tell me your 2-minute story.
Yeah, well, it's a circuitous route, like most of our stories. So I actually started my career in sales because I graduated from college having no clue what a person could do for a living, let alone having any actual skills other than, you know, I can write a mean research paper and I'm a talker.
So you said, hell, I got no skills. I go into sales.
Yeah, exactly.
Makes perfect
legit.
sense.
That's what happened.
Yeah, sure.
And made the transition to marketing, and so wound up doing damn near everything in startup marketing.
Let me stop for a second. In your mind, what's the difference between sales and marketing? Because I think a lot of people get these things confused.
So, this is kind of a tough one. So sales is much more about the kind of one-to-one connection.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's reaching out to individual prospects and closing those deals. And marketing is more about kind of the one-to-many, and it's how do you start that conversation?
Okay.
I wound up my specialty was always startup marketing. And part of that is because my sales background was a huge advantage in startup marketing because it's very different. Like enterprise marketing, you can like create this really fancy campaign and put it out all there and like people magically come to you. At a startup, doesn't work that way. You don't have the money, you don't have the audience, you don't have the trust and credibility. So what my approach always was what I refer to as relationship building at scale. So how do you take a lot of sales methodologies and then apply them in ways that scale faster? So it's not the 1 to millions.
Yeah.
It's the 1 to hundreds.
Well, it's the one to your
thousands.
tribe, right? One to the psychographic that makes sense for you and your business, right?
Yes, exactly. And so
are you just smart, or how the hell did you learn how to do that?
God, honestly, I just figured it out as I go.
And it always, okay, good.
it's always hilarious when, like, I remember the last full-time job that I had, we had an intern, and she was like, "Oh, did you go to school for marketing?" And I was like, first of all, definitely not. And second of all, at that time it was like, I went to college. Now it's 20 years ago, 15 years ago. Do you know, if I had learned anything in college about marketing, none of it would
Been
really be
old.
even relevant
Wouldn't
anymore. And
matter. Yep.
so this whole idea that, like, you have to learn in some formal way to learn how to do this, no,
It's
that
very
will
old
actually,
school.
it's very old school, and it will usually hold you back. One of my advantages is that I had no idea what I was doing. So I would think about, what is the outcome that I want? And I would just think through really creative, scrappy ways to do it.
Yeah.
And then later people will be like, holy moly, that's genius. Who taught you to do that? And I'd be like, I don't know. I just, like, figured it out. And so
Mhm.
sometimes not knowing is a huge advantage.
Right. You don't walk in with biases one way or another. And then plus you're on the ground testing and seeing what works and what doesn't.
Exactly. And so did that for a while. And then the last startup I was working for, they ran out of money.
Shocking.
And yeah,
That
big
marketing
surprise.
was kicking ass, huh?
Yeah. Uh-huh. If
Whoa.
people are listening to this, you can't see the grimace that I'm making. That, like,
Well,
grimace faced emoji.
sometimes that
That's
shit
the
doesn't
face
work.
that I
Sometimes
just
that
made.
shit doesn't work.
Yeah. But it also, they told me that they were running out of money at, like, a very interesting time. So I had just gotten back to the States after 10 days of coaching social impact entrepreneurs at an accelerator in Beirut, Lebanon.
Beirut.
And I
Cool.
went over there with major imposter syndrome. Like, what could I possibly have to
Oh,
teach these
yes.
people?
Right.
I had an amazing experience. I got amazing feedback, and I was, like, on a high. And I was like, I want to work with all these founders. This is awesome. And then literally the next day, my boss is like, yeah, so we ran out of money and you're out of a job in 2 weeks. And I
Fuck.
was like, okay.
Wow. What a.
And it was
So then
a
did you,
kick in
that
the
what
gut.
caused you to start your own deal?
That's why I started my own business. And I've done a bunch of things in my own business. But what I realized, I did consulting. We ran a small agency for a while, which I really sucked at and hated.
Mm-hmm.
But what I realized throughout it is that without fail, literally every founder that I worked with who had an active and public and well-known personal brand, their businesses just did better.
Yep.
Period. End of story. They had more connections. They had an easier time getting investment. Um, you know, their ideal customers kind of were more gravitated towards
So
them.
what is a brand? What's a personal brand? What the hell does that mean?
So I hate Jeff Bezos and
Good.
everything he stands for, but he's
Mm-hmm.
got a quote that I really like where he says, your brand, your personal brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room.
Okay.
And so this is the big thing I want to make clear to people is you have a personal brand, whether you think
Whether
you
you
do or
know it or
not.
not. Yep.
The question is, have you crafted it with intention, or are you just kind of letting shit happen? And I bet you can guess which choice I would recommend.
Yeah, right. Craft with intention. So what does that mean? How does one craft your personal brand with intention? What the hell is that?
Okay. So here's how I look at it. There's a couple of things. One, it's, you want to think about what you want to be known for, right?
Yep.
So using Jeff Bezos' quote, like, what do you want people to say when you're not in the room?
Mm-hmm.
But I think a lot about, I mean, to the point where it's like, I don't know, I'm going to have to get this tattooed on me because I
You
say it all
kind
the
of
time.
nerdy about this, huh?
I'm really nerdy about this one. So there's a Maya Angelou quote that I absolutely freaking love. And she
Mm-hmm.
says, no one's going to remember what you said. They're not going to remember what you did, but they're going to remember how you made them
Made them
feel.
feel. Yep.
So what I
You'll have to start
encourage,
at your toe and run that up to your shoulder. I think that's a lot of
yeah,
words.
no. So what I encourage people to think about is two things. One, who do you serve? Okay.
Yeah.
Who are you trying to reach?
Yep.
Because way too often what I see is people, when they are working on their personal brand, they're thinking too much about people like them
Mm-hmm.
and not about the audience that they're actually trying to serve.
Explain.
And so very few of us actually sell to people like us.
Right.
Okay. So, when you work in sales, Sometimes you get to sell to salespeople, but most of the time you're selling to IT professionals or
Yep.
CFOs
Yep.
or marketers or whatever the
Yep.
hell. So
Mm-hmm.
you need to think about who you're trying to reach. And if you are doing this at least partly to make some money, then you need to think about your customer, and you are not your customer. And I want to be clear too, for
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneurs, especially tech entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
Tech entrepreneurs are often building a product to solve a problem that they once had,
Ah,
right? That's how they came up with it. And so they fool themselves into thinking that they know everything there is to know about their target audience. But let's be clear, you decided to build a product that solves the problem. Your ideal customer is not that person. They want someone to solve it for them. So
right.
you don't know what that person is thinking. On top of that, you had that problem usually 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago.
Right.
Shit has changed. And so if you are not continuously talking to your ideal customers and understanding what they are going through and what they care about and what they're thinking about and other ways they're trying to solve this problem, then you are woefully out of touch.
So what do people do about that? Besides hire Kasey Jones, or maybe it's part of hiring Kasey Jones. How the hell do people do that?
So my favorite thing is do a bunch of freaking interviews.
What do you mean?
What you do is go out onto social media, send an email to your list, talk to friends, and you say, hey, I need your help.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to talk to people who are struggling with whatever the problem is that you solve. And you say, people like this who struggle with that problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to just ask you a bunch of questions about how you deal with it, what it means, all these other things. I promise I won't try to sell you.
Yep.
I'm just trying to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get on that call with them and you ask them everything about what that problem means for them. How much does it cost them? How are they trying to solve it? What books have they read? What influencers do they follow? What blogs did they read? What shit do they Google?
Yep.
And you record it, you take down notes, and you learn. And you don't do 3 of these, you do 50 of them.
50 of them. It's part of your job.
Yeah, it
It's a
is part of your
constant thing,
job.
isn't it, too?
And PS, that will ensure that what you sell, whatever product you create, whatever service you package, you're going to be a lot more close to guaranteeing that you're going to create something that people actually want and that they'll actually pay for. And I
Maybe
think
even the same people that you talked to before.
boom, there it is. I mean, that's the easiest way to start a conversation with an ideal customer is say, hey, can I learn from you?
Yeah. And here's the catch to that, Kasey, and I think you know this, but I'll make sure everybody else does. You have to mean that. I don't want
Yes.
any of this shit just to be a move where you're saying, "Oh, I'd like to, I'd like to find out more about your business," just as a way to turn around and freaking sell them
Yeah.
something. You have to
5 minutes
mean it.
after asking questions, you start pitching them. No, no, no. You take 30, 45 minutes of asking them questions. And when at the end, when they've like, now they trust you because they've told you all kinds of personal things.
You understand their stuff.
Yeah. And you understand their stuff. And at the end, they'll be like, so can you tell me about this thing that you sell or that you do? And you say, hey, you know what? I'd love to, but let's schedule another time
Yeah,
and we can
perfect.
talk about it. And you create a separate experience, and then you can actually try to sell them. And you'll have a way better sense of what the hell they actually want or need.
And at the same time, you are building as you do those interviews, and you're building your presence, and your so it makes it easier for you to approach people and them to approach you. Correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're going to learn then, like, hey, they're going to tell you all of these like tangential problems that they have around the problem that you already know. That's amazing content that you can create. That's amazing sort of insight and
So, how much of personal branding is actual content creation?
it depends. If you love content creation, it can be a huge part. But you know what? I have people that I've coached and friends of mine that they barely create content at all. You know what they do?
Share shit.
They share shit, but you know what even better?
Hmm.
They comment on other people's stuff.
And why is that as important? Or as why is that a different? Why? Tell me about that strategy. How does that work?
And let me tell you, like, if you're only creating and you're never engaging, it's
You're
not going to be
done.
that successful.
Mm-hmm.
So the easiest pathway is just start engaging. So you want to think through like, okay, who am I trying to reach? And you might look at like, who are all the other sort of influencers or thought leaders in my
Mm-hmm.
space? Put a 20-minute kind of reminder on your calendar every single day. And you go in and you just go to those people's latest post, comment. Don't just like the post and don't say,
Right. Yeah.
great
Yeah.
post.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Actually add a thoughtful comment or ask a question. But people will start to see you. And what's amazing is you will build relationships that way. I literally did another podcast interview. Sorry, don't be jealous.
Damn
Did
it.
another podcast interview this
Cheating on
morning.
me. Damn
And
it.
that came because this guy started commenting on all of my content and it made me be like, who's this guy? And then I started commenting on all of his and now we're good friends.
You are so cheap. I can't imagine that somebody just tricked you like that. That's awesome. This is, gosh darn it, I could talk to you again for hours and hours and hours. Can I tell you a couple things that I've learned
Yes.
as we're running towards?
That is a great idea, Walker.
Well, thank you so much. I knew you would appreciate that to share. I
Tell
love
me how smart I am, please.
you're very smart, by the way. I love the question, who do you serve? And fully exploring that and then digging deeper into who is that by actually talking to those people, right? And make sure that's the
Novel
same.
concept. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the second thing was what you just talked about, which was commenting. Be a part of other. If you don't want to create content, just create content in 1 or 2 or 3 sentence responses. And even
Yeah.
if I think even if you disagree, that's
Oh yeah.
powerful, right? That's even
Oh,
more powerful.
start an actual conversation. And it
Yep.
is interesting. It's like when you're consistent about that, not only do you get a bunch of views and people will start clicking through to your profile and all this stuff, but you genuinely like you build relationships and you make friends. And it's cool. Like if you, let's say there's an influencer in your space, and I'm not saying Gary V level of influencer, but someone who's like, in your niche, but like substantially bigger than you
Yeah.
in terms of their following. If you consistently engage with their stuff, I guarantee you that after a while, they will start to take a look at you and engage with yours. And if you decide that you want to then reach out to them and say, hey, like, I would love to talk about collaboration or I'd love to learn from you. If you've engaged with 10 of their posts in recent weeks and you've said really kind of thoughtful things, they'll take that call.
You mean this is like real life? You actually can develop a relationship with people by building trust, by paying attention and asking questions?
Oh my gosh.
Fucking
Yes.
believable. It's amazing what you have shared.
Yeah.
Hey, Kasey, how would people find you? You are so, people, of course, will want to talk to you and find you after this intriguing episode.
Okay, so a couple ways. One, so my website is abetterjones.com,
Love
but
that.
my social media handle on literally everything is abetterjones. So you can find me that way. I'm also going to share Walker with you, which you can share in the show notes. I have a quick downloadable guide that is my 5 easy steps to unapologetically create a powerful personal brand.
Fucking love that.
So there you go. So I will share that and you can download that. And I love talking to people and I love helping. So if there's ever, you've got a question, you want to, need a sounding board, anyone just hit me up and always down to have a conversation.
And just recognize when you do, it'll be a boring conversation like this one has been. So anyway, sorry to disappoint you, audience, and you, Kasey.
And I'll just, you can tell me, ask me like a question and I'll just start talking and you can just like, I'll lull you to sleep and you can just get that long needed nap.
All right, No BSL team, I hope you've thoroughly enjoyed this episode like I have. If you are listening, you're listening out there and you're saying, I am sick and tired of the status quo. I've been doing okay, but I know I can do better. I just can't figure out what the hell it is I need to do better, right? And whether you're running it, whether you're founder of a company, whether you're managing a sales team, if you are a salesperson yourself who is interested in investing in yourself, those are the kind of people I want to talk to. Walker at walkermckay.com. Go to my website, walkermckay.com, book an appointment. Let's have a quick no BS conversation. Kasey Jones, thank you so much. I've loved having you here.
You.
You're the
Always
best.
a pleasure. You're the best.
Pleasure is mine.